When I found out she was pregnant with my husband's child, everything changed. The sentence still tastes bitter on my tongue, like old coffee gone cold. It's been 3 years since that night, and I can still hear the silence that followed, heavy, suffocating, almost alive. The kind of silence that presses against your chest until you can barely breathe. It started with a phone call. I was standing in the kitchen, staring at a pot of soup I had let boil over. The smell of burnt onions hung in the air. My hands were shaking, though I didn't know why yet. The voice on the other end was soft, uncertain, almost apologetic, a woman's voice. She said my name. My full name. Then she said, "You deserve to know. I'm pregnant. And it's his." For a moment, my body didn't react. My mind couldn't connect the dots. It was as if someone had spoken a language I had never learned. Then it hit, a sharp, clean pain right in my chest. She didn't even need to say his name. I knew. Before all this, I would have told you my life was ordinary, maybe even peaceful. I was 39 then. My husband, Daniel, was 41. We had been married for 14 years. We lived in a modest house on the east side of town, one of those places where the neighbors know each other's dogs' names but not each other's stories. Our daughter, Lila, was 10, bright, curious, too grown up for her age. She loved reading by the window while I cooked dinner, her small voice humming old songs she picked up from me. Daniel worked as a regional manager for a logistics company. Long hours, frequent travel, the kind of job that made him sound important but mostly kept him tired. Still, he was dependable. Or so I thought. Every Sunday morning, he'd mow the lawn, then bring me coffee just the way I liked it, black, with a hint of honey. We had small rituals, little things that made marriage feel steady. Looking back, maybe that steadiness blinded me. Maybe I mistook habit for love. Our life wasn't perfect. There were arguments, like any marriage. He said I worried too much. I said he cared too little. We would fight over tiny things, toothpaste caps, missed calls, whether he spent too long on his phone. But every fight ended the same. Silence, then apology, then routine. I worked part-time at a community library. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me peace. I liked the quiet rows of books, the way time slowed between pages. Daniel never came to visit me there. He said libraries made him sleepy. I thought nothing of it. Back then, I thought a lot of things were harmless. It was around that time that he started working late. He'd call around 7, sometimes 8, saying, "Babe, don't wait up. The shipment's delayed. I'll grab a bite with the team." I wanted to believe him. After all, he'd been with the company for years. His boss even sent a Christmas card once, thanking me for understanding the nature of corporate life. Sometimes, he'd come home smelling faintly of perfume, not mine. A floral scent, light and sweet, like jasmine. I told myself it was someone from the office, maybe a handshake that lingered too long, or an air freshener from a restaurant. You can justify anything if you don't want the truth. There was one night I remember clearly. He came home past midnight, shoes in hand, tiptoeing like a teenager sneaking in. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to be asleep. He froze when he saw me. "Did I wake you?" he asked, voice calm, too calm. I said no. Then he kissed my forehead and said, "You're my peace, you know that." I smiled back, but inside something shifted. Peace doesn't need to be reminded. It just is. Still, I loved him. You don't spend over a decade with someone without learning to love even their flaws. Or maybe it wasn't love anymore. Maybe it was memory, comfort, fear of starting over. Whatever it was, I held on to it. Tightly. That phone call, the one that started all this, came on a Tuesday. I was home alone. Lila was at a friend's, Daniel was in Houston for work. The woman on the other end of the line said her name was Clara. She didn't sound cruel. If anything, she sounded scared. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. "But I can't hide it anymore." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just listened as she said she was 2 months pregnant. That she'd been seeing Daniel for almost a year. That he'd promised her things, divorce, a future, a family. When she hung up, the only sound left in the kitchen was the hum of the refrigerator. And my breathing. Uneven. Shallow. Foreign. I remember walking to the sink, running cold water over my wrists just to feel something real. Then I picked up my phone. There were 3 unread messages from Daniel. Made it to Houston. Long day ahead. Miss you. Love you, babe. The last one made me sick. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake listening to the rain hit the window. Every drop felt like a question I didn't know how to answer. Was this the first time? Did he love her? Was I the fool or the casualty? When he came home 2 days later, suitcase in hand, I watched him from the kitchen doorway. He looked tired, unbothered. Kissed Lila on the head, asked about dinner, smiled at me like nothing had happened. I stared at his hands. The same hands that had held me through miscarriages, through funerals, through years of laughter. I wondered how many lies those hands had touched. I didn't ask him that night. I needed proof, or maybe I needed courage. But one thing was certain, the woman on the phone wasn't lying. And I wasn't ready to lose everything. Not yet. That was the night I decided to find out for myself. The next morning, I watched him the way you watch a stranger in your own home. Quietly, curiously, afraid to make a sound that might shatter the illusion. Daniel moved through the kitchen humming under his breath, stirring sugar into his coffee. He asked if I'd washed his blue shirt for work. I nodded, pretending to be distracted by the newspaper. Everything okay? He asked. His voice was calm, but there was something rehearsed about it. Fine, I said. Just tired. He smiled, that same practiced, disarming smile I used to find comforting. Now it looked like a mask. For the next few days, I played the role of the dutiful wife. I packed his lunches, reminded him of meetings, kissed his cheek before he left for the office. But every movement felt mechanical, like I was performing my old life from memory. While he was at work, I started paying attention to the details I'd ignored for years. The way he never left his phone unattended. The faint smell of unfamiliar perfume on his jacket sleeves. The way he suddenly locked his car whenever he came home, even when it sat safely in our driveway. I told myself I was imagining things. That I was paranoid. That maybe the woman had lied just to ruin us. But then, one afternoon, something small and ordinary confirmed everything. I was cleaning the laundry room, folding shirts, sorting socks, when I found a receipt tucked inside his jeans pocket. A receipt from a cafe across town. It wasn't the cafe that bothered me. It was the handwriting scrawled across the back of it. See you next week, D, followed by a tiny heart. My hands went cold. That was her. It had to be. I sat on the floor, the washing machine humming behind me, the smell of detergent sharp in the air. The receipt trembled in my fingers like a piece of evidence from a crime scene. When Daniel came home that night, I didn't say a word. I smiled, served dinner, watched him eat. I studied the way he chewed, the way he avoided my eyes when I asked about his trip. He said the hotel was nice. That the weather in Houston was humid. That the client meeting went better than expected. Every lie slid off his tongue like it had practiced the route 100 times. That night, I couldn't bear to lie beside him. I waited until he fell asleep, then slipped out of bed and sat by the window. The moonlight hit the framed photo on the dresser, the 3 of us at the beach, Lila on his shoulders, all laughter and salt air. It felt like a photo of strangers. I picked up his phone from the nightstand. It was locked, of course. Face ID. Passcode. Protection. But the next morning, when he showered, he left it charging in the kitchen. I stared at it for a full minute before my hands moved on their own. The code. It had to be something simple, a date, maybe. His birthday didn't work. Neither did Lila's. Then I tried mine. It opened. My breath caught. There it was, everything. A string of messages to see. Some were mundane, morning, beautiful. Others were worse. She's been distant lately, I think she knows. And then, the one that ended my denial. Don't worry about the doctor's appointment. I'll take care of you both. You both. The room tilted. I felt my knees weaken. I set the phone down before I threw it, before I screamed and woke the whole house. That was the first time I allowed myself to cry, Not loud, not hysterical, just quiet, steady tears that soaked through my robe. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I spent the next week watching him closer. How he'd disappear for hours, claiming conference calls. How he'd change shirts before leaving, carry his phone into the shower, flinch whenever I touched his arm. And through it all, I smiled. Because sometimes pretending is the only power you have left. Then came the night I followed him. It was a Thursday. Lila was at her friend's for a sleepover. Daniel said he was going to a late client dinner, some big potential contract. He even put on his favorite navy blazer, the one I'd bought for his promotion party years ago. I waited 10 minutes after he left before grabbing my keys. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. I kept my headlights dim, followed him through 2 intersections until he turned onto a side street near downtown. He parked in front of a small apartment complex, old, brick, ivy climbing the sides. And then she came out. Clara. You always imagine what the other woman looks like. I expected someone glamorous, younger maybe, someone who'd make me feel small. But she wasn't. She looked ordinary, soft features, messy ponytail, tired eyes. She wore a plain grey sweater that clung to her small frame. She smiled when she saw him. He opened his arms, kissed her forehead, then rested his hand on her belly. That's when I saw it. The slight curve beneath her sweater. A baby bump. I couldn't breathe. I rolled the window down halfway, but the air outside was thick and heavy. My fingers clutched the steering wheel so tightly they hurt. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember how I made it through the front door or how long I sat on the couch staring at nothing. All I remember is the silence. The kind that fills every corner of your body until you can't tell where it ends and you begin. The next morning, he came home like nothing had happened. He kissed my cheek, said, "Morning, sweetheart." And I said it back. Because now I wasn't guessing anymore. Now I knew. But if he was capable of living 2 lives so easily, then I had to learn how to do the same. At least for a while. 4 days after that night, I lived in a kind of numbness. Not the kind that comes from sadness, but the kind that comes from disbelief, the space between knowing and accepting. I went through motions. Woke up, made breakfast, smiled for Lila, packed her lunch. I watched Daniel drink his coffee, scroll through his phone, kiss the top of my head like nothing in the world had shifted. But I had changed. Something inside me had gone very still, quiet, deliberate. Every look, every word, every gesture was recorded in a part of my mind I didn't know existed. One evening, I sat on our bed, staring at the framed photo from our anniversary trip to Savannah. He'd written a note on the back of it, "Forever, no matter what." The handwriting looked foreign now, like it belonged to a man I hadn't met. That night, while he showered, I opened his briefcase. Inside were work papers, a pen, and a small velvet pouch. My heart stopped when I opened it. A gold necklace, delicate, with a small letter C dangling at the end. He came out of the bathroom just as I zipped the bag shut. My hands trembled, but I forced a smile. "Hey," I said. "Did you remember to sign Lila's school form?" He nodded, towel around his neck, unaware that the last thread of trust between us had just snapped. A few days later, fate did what I couldn't. It was a Saturday afternoon. Daniel said he was going to meet a client for lunch. I nodded, pretending to be busy with laundry. After he left, I sat by the window, watching the street. Then his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. He'd forgotten it. For a full minute, I just stared at it. My heart told me not to look. My mind whispered, "You already know. Just prove it." The message preview was from C. "Can you grab prenatal vitamins on your way? Feeling tired today?" I opened the phone, no code needed now, and read the rest. Photos. Messages. Plans. There it all was, their life, unfolding quietly beside mine. Doctor's appointments. Ultrasound pictures. Her saying, "I can't wait for you to meet her." Her. A baby girl. I don't remember setting the phone down. I only remember the sound of my own heartbeat, loud and uneven. By the time he came home, I had made up my mind. He walked in with his usual easy smile. "Hey, babe," he said. "What's for dinner?" I turned to him slowly. My voice came out calm, almost too calm. "Who's Clara?" He froze. The air between us shifted instantly, thick with tension. "Clara," he repeated, pretending to think. She's a colleague." "Why?" I tilted my head, studying him. "A colleague you take to doctor's appointments." His eyes flickered, the brief, unmistakable look of someone caught. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, quieter this time. I stepped closer. "Don't lie to me, Daniel. Not now. I've seen the messages. I know she's pregnant. I know it's yours." For a moment, he didn't speak. Then he sank into the nearest chair, his head in his hands. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he whispered. The words were like a knife turned slowly. I wanted to scream, to break something, but my voice came out small. "Then what did you mean to happen? To destroy us? To make me a fool in my own home?" He looked up, tears in his eyes, or maybe guilt pretending to be tears. "She was there for me when things got hard," he said. "We didn't plan it. It just happened." That line. The same line men have used for centuries to justify betrayal. It just happened. 14 years of marriage, I said, my voice shaking. A child, a home, a life, and you just happened to throw it away. "I still love you," he said desperately. "I swear, I do." I laughed, a sound I didn't recognize. "You don't get to use that word anymore." He tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. Something in his face hardened then, as if my refusal made me the problem. "Look, I made a mistake," he said. "But she's pregnant. I can't just walk away from that." I stared at him. "So you'll walk away from us instead?" He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. The rest of that night was a blur. Lila came home from her friend's house, and I plastered on a smile. I made dinner, listened to her stories, pretended everything was fine while Daniel sat silently across from me, his fork untouched. When she went to bed, he said quietly, "I'll stay at my brother's for a few days. Give you space." I nodded. "Go." He left with a small suitcase, and just like that, the house felt both emptier and cleaner. After the door closed, I sat on the floor and cried until I couldn't anymore. The kind of crying that leaves you hollow, where even breathing feels like work. Days passed. Then weeks. He didn't call. He didn't come by. Part of me hoped he'd wake up, realize what he'd lost. Another part, the wiser part, knew he wouldn't. Then one afternoon, I saw them. I'd gone to the grocery store on the other side of town, the one where I wouldn't run into anyone I knew. But life has a cruel sense of humor. As I walked past the bakery aisle, I saw them by the cafe counter. Daniel and Clara. He was holding her hand, his other hand resting protectively on her stomach. She laughed at something he said, the same laugh I used to have. They looked happy. Effortlessly, offensively happy. I turned away before they saw me. My hands shook so badly I dropped the carton of eggs I was holding. It shattered on the floor, yolk spreading like gold across the tiles. A store clerk rushed over. Are you okay?" I nodded, but my throat was tight. Just clumsy. That night, I sat in Lila's room while she slept. Her soft breathing filled the silence. I watched her small hand curled under her cheek and thought about what this would mean for her. The lies, the half-siblings she didn't know existed yet, the father she still adored. And I made myself a promise, that she would never see me broken again. Months passed. The divorce papers came, clean and emotionless. He got what he wanted. They had their baby. I saw pictures once, a little girl with his eyes. It hurt, but the pain dulled with time, like an old scar you stop noticing. Now, 3 years later, I sit by the same kitchen window, coffee in hand, sunlight spilling across the table. Lila's laughter echoes from the backyard. She's 13 now, bold, beautiful, and so much stronger than I ever was. Daniel still sends birthday cards. Sometimes he calls. I keep it civil for her sake. But when I look at him now, I don't see the man who betrayed me. I see the man who set me free. Because when I found out she was pregnant with my husband's child, everything changed. and in the end, maybe it was the best thing that ever happened to me.